Go Blue, welcome to a little delayed reaction, instant reaction, following Michigan's 45-20 victory over Maryland on Saturday evening. I'm Steve Dace with Noah Dace here. Sorry, had a family party like right after the game. So didn't have time to record the instant reaction. Then as soon as we got home from church, we sat down to do it. But Noah, first and foremost, we've been waiting. I don't count Central Michigan, even though they're going to be a bowl team. It looks like they might even end up winning the MAC, but we don't count Central Michigan as like a real game. It's basically a glorified scrimmage, okay? So we've been waiting all year for kind of a laugher, you know? Yeah, you and I went to the Purdue game thinking that's going to be an easy win. Came down to the last possession. Looked like Northwestern last week was going to be an easy win. Then Bryce Underwood turned it over 3 times to open the third or the fourth quarter, and it came down to the last possession again. So we haven't had a lot of these, but finally Michigan gives us a laugher against Maryland, emptying the bench all the way throughout much of the fourth quarter. This is probably, given the youth of this team, this is probably the best outcome we could have asked for heading into the game. What are your thoughts?
I mean, you kind of said it. I was really disappointed, especially being at the Purdue game with the performance there. You expect to play better against Northwestern, and you didn't. I'm not sure it's fair to compare this team to last year's, but thinking about last year's, there's a lot of performances like that, but we lost those games instead. So I remember going into the Northwestern game. That was the game before Ohio State last year. I was thinking, I don't really know. I mean, this is Northwestern. It's a team we should beat pretty handily, but I mean, given how bad last team's was, I wasn't really sure what to think going into that. And I kind of honestly felt the same way going into Maryland. I was like, I feel like we might actually be, based off our last 2 performances, the worst 8-2 team in the country. I don't know if that's going too far, but I mean, that's kind of how I felt. I didn't feel super confident. I felt like if we did win, it'd be like in a 24-21, pretty ugly, grinded out type of game. And especially once I saw that Jordan Marshall wasn't playing, then that kind of made me feel a little uneasy. And then that first drive, they marched down the field, scored a touchdown. And I was like, here we go. But it completely turned it around. I thought the team looked pretty complete. Not perfect, definitely. I mean, especially some things with coverage. Also, you got to stop jumping off sides. You just got to watch the ball. It's just basic fundamental stuff that you fix up with coaching. But other than that, I think the coaching just looked better. And I mean, I'm not sure what's going on with Samaj Morgan, so I don't hold any genuine personal resentment towards anybody on the team. So I won't say much regarding that. But I mean, Andrew Marsh is already leading the team in punt return yards this year after like a game and a half of being their starting punt returner, which kind of tells you all you need to know. And I mean, Ernest Hausman sounds like from what he's been posting on Twitter that he's going to be back for the Ohio State games. I'm not sure what's going on with them too, but I don't think they were injured. I know neither of them traveled with the team. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that. But I mean, I was very impressed. And obviously with the game, every year you don't really know what's going to happen. It can go either way. Whether one team's 0-11, the other team's 11-0. You never really know. That's kind of always a toss-up, and it really kind of depends. So I feel more confident going into it this now than I did last week, though, and I can tell you that much.
Well, if you just look at the last 4 years of Michigan's winning streak, 2021, week before Ohio State, Michigan opens a can on Maryland. Looks like they're raring to go. 2022, Michigan probably should have lost to Illinois. You got Isaiah Gash making 4th down catches as a walk-on running back, wins on a last-second field goal at home. That's the game that Blake Corum got hurt, probably lost him the Heisman Trophy. I think he was on his way to winning that. 2023, Michigan goes out, gets its 1,000th win ever against Maryland. JJ plays, probably should not have with how beat up he was. And that game comes down to the very last possession as well. You know, in 2024, you mentioned the 50-burger we dropped on Northwestern. And so my point is, this is a 1-game season, all right? What you don't want, I think, is with such a young team in particular, because we don't really know. We see guys in the future, Bryce Underwood, Andrew Marsh, Cole Sullivan. We forget he's just a sophomore, all right? We see guys in the future that we know or suspect have high ceilings. Jordan Marshall's just a redshirt freshman. He's on the cusp of 1,000 yards, okay? But as a team, we don't know what this team's ceiling is as a team because we haven't seen them play a lot of really complete games this year. Michigan, I think, is the only team in America that has 5 games this year where it's gotten over 400 yards of offense and failed to score 30 points in a game. I mean, heading into the Maryland game, Michigan was a very good 20th in the nation in yards per play. That's very good, okay? And yet was 65th in the nation in scoring. That's pretty mediocre. right? So we don't know what this year's team with all this youth, we don't know what its ceiling is. And so to go in there after week after week after week playing kind of the same game where everything is kind of a slog, and then you're like, all right, now go beat the number one team in the country. I do think in previous years when we had more veteran teams, it really didn't matter how we played the week before. Okay, we knew we were gonna that team was gonna play its best the next game. Okay, it was just a matter of whether the best was going to be good enough. I think we didn't know that with this team. So I think for this year's team, I think it was pertinent for them to play the way that they did on Saturday. Now, I like the way you put it. It was a complete game, but it was not perfect. I could go, I saw way too much of Jair Hill's nameplate in this game. He was what the announcers, when they're when a guy's a toast out there getting burnt like toast, usually the announcers say, to put it nicely, he's in a, quote, trail position. Okay. Jair Hill, I believe, just got burnt off the line of scrimmage again. He was in a trail position the entire game. Now, here's why I'm not worried about that against Ohio State. And if you think Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith aren't playing, I've got some swampland in the Himalayas to sell you. Okay. But the reason why I'm not worried about that, I think it's pretty clear. We ran a much more aggressive man-to-man scheme against a Maryland team that we felt we were better than. So we tried to kind of, impose our will on them. I don't think you're going to see Wink do that against Ohio State. I think you're going to see way more of the Baltimore Raven kind of umbrella zone. You are going to have to prove you can hit 6, 7, 8 plays in a row, not beat us over the top. So I don't know that translates to next week's defensive game plan, or at least it better not, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Offensively, I think a lot of what we did translates into next week's game plan. And what can you say? I got to give a shout out, man, to my man, Tony Alford. I've known Tony Alford longer than you've been alive. Going back to when we were at Iowa State together. I covered the team professionally. He was the running backs coach. And then Tony went from there to Notre Dame and Ohio State and now Michigan. He's just a phenomenal running backs coach. When you look at Bryson Cudstall coming off the bench as a walk-on, running for 100 yards in a Big Ten game, and these weren't fluky yards. It wasn't like he got stuck, and then gashed him for a 70-yarder. I mean, he's just consistently moving the pile. Those short yardage runs all game long, that looked like Blake Corum 2022 kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. All right. Jasper Parker, who's barely played, came off the bench, man. I was so glad to see him get a touchdown at the end, because my man in pass pro was blocking his off the handful of times I saw him in there on passing downs. I mean, I'm watching him read the formation and coming across the quarterback's face to pick up blitzers. He's been on campus for 6 months. I mean, Tony Alford deserves a heck of a lot of credit for how he got those running backs set together. And then this offensive line, you can just, this offensive line is just moving people in the run game. And when you got to give Grant Newsome some props for that too, a guy that was under a lot of heat, Noah, after last year's offensive line disaster. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that they should be a Joe Moore semifinal line, but I do think this, in terms of run blocking, I doubt there's 10 better offensive lines in America than those guys. And most of those guys are going to be here for another couple of years beyond even next year. So those were a couple things that I was excited to see offensively that I think will translate to next week.
I mean, you talked about skill positions getting involved in blocking. How about Channing Goodwin and the run blocking? I think on the edges, particularly, not just the offensive line, because I feel like you said, our offensive line has been pretty good. And run blocking, really just on the outside, the receivers and run blocking is going to be really important, I think, next week. Because if we're able to break big runs like we have all year, I think we can win next week. I think we'll win. If we can't, I don't think we will. That's just how it is. The last 20 matchups have all been decided by who wins the rushing attack.
The rushing attack, yeah.
I think we have the better running back room. I think we have the better run blocking. So we just have to execute that, I think. And I think that's not just up to the offensive line. That's up to everybody else. Because if you can get one good block by a wide receiver out there on the edge, and then Jordan Marshall makes one cut, that might decide the game right there, that one block. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I think that is vitally, vitally important next week. I think in terms of the passing game, I don't know if you'll see 215 yards, 2 touchdowns next week. I don't think you'll see him air it out quite as much. Maybe, you didn't really think that you would.
If he has to, it's probably a bad sign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, you didn't really think that much about 2022 with J.J. McCarthy, and then you saw what happened there. You know what I'm saying? So if we see that kind of performance out of Bryce Underwood next week against Ohio State, I'll take that. But I think they're going to try to win the game on the ground. and then not try to put the ball in harm's way too much. So I just think that not any yard goal and not any touchdown goal. The most important goal for Bryce Underwood next week is to not turn the ball over.
Protect the ball. Agreed.
If we do not turn the ball over, but we can force them to turn the ball over. I mean, that's just simple. If we have the ball, we're more likely to score than you are. That's just how the sport of football works. And time of possession too. I've been talking about that all year. It's the most underrated stat
For the way that we play it is.
Especially.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, if we have the ball, the other team can't score, and that's the fact of the matter. Because they might just be, they are the overall more talented team. They're more experienced.
And most of the time they are. Most of the time they are. Even when we beat them, most of the time that's true.
100%.
Yeah.
But again, it doesn't matter how talented they are. If they don't have the ball, they can't score. So if we don't turn the ball over, if we're able to hold on to the ball and run successfully, I think we win the game. It's just a matter of executing that. I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility to see us win that game next week, because I thought it was last year, and then you saw what happened last year. So I wouldn't really put myself super high on the confidence scale, because I mean, you really never know. I always would put it around 50-50, but I think if we can execute in the same way we did this week against a much better team than Maryland is, there's a pretty decent chance that we could win.
I think one of the most important moments of the game on Saturday was the resiliency the Michigan offense showed. So Wink does what Wink does, which is get completely out-schemed by the opposing team's, opening script and give up opening points, and then make great adjustments as the game goes on. That's just what Wink does, So it's almost as if Ohio State wins the toss and takes the ball, just give them 7 points here on Sunday afternoon as we're recording this. I mean, that's just what Wink does, all right? The opening possession, he gets out-schemed on the other team's script and then makes good adjustments as the game goes on. What I thought was important is offensively how we came right out. And hey, props to Chase Taylor, who's going to get no mention, but him stepping in and catching that surprise, the freshman linebacker, catching that surprise onside kick, and then taking a shot man right to the gut. Usually he's not the guy taking those shots as a linebacker. Him to hold on to the ball, that was a clutch play there by a freshman.
Me in my sophomore year of JV football.
I remember that. Yeah, I do remember that. Had you mentioned that? Yes.
Same type of thing. I did that like 2 or 3 times that game.
But you recovered it every time.
Their kicker couldn't kick, so they kept kicking onside kicks, and I just kept catching and getting blown up because they looked, and I was the shortest guy there, so they just kicked it right at me.
I thought to pick on you, but you kept recovering him. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So, but the way the offense came right out, scored right away. So Maryland didn't think, all right, hey, we've got him, behind the 8 ball. And then the next possession, Bryce throws off his back foot sidearm, which should have been an absolute pick 6 for Maryland, right?
Yeah, do that next week.
And I go back, I was there at Wrigley 2 weeks ago, and we saw Bryce kind of pucker after that when he threw those 2 picks. He did come back and throw that great throw to Andrew Marsh there at the end, but you saw him kind of, his body language, you could see it was down. His daubers were down. He comes back right after that, leads like an 89-yard drive for a touchdown, and then was in complete and total control of this game from that time forward. I like to see that kind of resiliency because here's the thing. Spoiler alert, Ohio State is going to make some plays next week. We are going to make some mistakes. And your ability to show resiliency in the face of that. I know we all look back at that 21 game now, and the 22 game now and act like Michigan was in control of those games all the way through. In the 22 game, Michigan trailed at the half. In 21, Michigan was up by 1 point at the half. So that's not the case. All right. And so, but again, nobody on this team played in those games. So they don't know that. So the ability to show that kind of resiliency, I thought, was absolutely key. Bryce did not put the ball even close to harm's way the rest of the way from there. So I really liked that. When you look ahead to next week, a couple things that happened Saturday though that cannot happen. I don't know what's going on when we're on the short side of the field, so we're close to our sideline, and there's 15 seconds left to go in the half, and you've got a timeout. All right, and yeah, I know he's not kicking great, but if you trot, Dominic Zavada out there from 55, 60 yards, you may not think he's going to make it, but you don't think it's going to get blocked or it's going to be short. You know what I'm saying? He has legitimate range. That's just one scamper, one completion to get you a field goal attempt. And instead, as a coaching staff, you just sit there. You can see a young team is scrambling, trying to get set, and you just let the clock run out. Guys, that ain't going to work against Ohio State. That's the kind of thing where if that happens at the end of the half next week, and then we lose momentum, Ohio State, you'll never get it back the rest of the game.
So you call time out there, and maybe you make that field goal. and then the game's decided by 1 point at the end.
Correct.
That field goal won you the game.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
those small things.
You just can't. That's a coaching error, a game management error. And with the amount of coaches and analysts we have on the sidelines, and you're the head coach, Sharon Moore, that just cannot, period. That just cannot happen, number one. Okay. The other thing that I am concerned about is the jumping off sides, which continues to happen. Okay. You know, you and I just paused the Lions game. First drive. It's like Aiden Hutchinson is still wearing a Michigan uniform. He's looking right at the ball. It's third and 7. Jumps off sides, gives him an easy third down. Next play, Giants score a touchdown. All right. We that just has to stop. All right. And to me, this is, as we look ahead to next week, and we'll wrap it up by doing that. There's two great unknowns in this game, one for each team. Ohio State has not been punched in the mouth really since the opening half against Texas, way back opening week of the season. They haven't been in really a fourth quarter game. I mean, Texas kind of only lost that game by a touchdown, but really Ohio State from about the second quarter on was pretty much in control of the game. Ryan Day wasn't even trying to throw it because he knew that Texas couldn't move the ball against his defense, right? Okay. So can we drag them into a fight? Can we drag them down into a mosh pit where they've got to, deliver blows and take blows? And then because the quarterback they're playing is very good, but he's also about 5'10", 5'11", and not really incredibly mobile. So he's more of a Drew Brees kind of a quarterback. This is not Dwayne Haskins standing back and surveying the pocket, or C.J. Stroud at the same size, or J.T. Barrett with that kind of mobility, or Braxton Miller. So I will be fascinated to see how that works, okay? And then now it may come out maybe that they blitzkrieg us from the beginning and we never drag him into a fight. That could happen. But what happens to Ohio State if they get punched in the mouth, if we can do that? The other thing we don't know is, can we limit mistakes? All right. I mean, that to me, and there's just no way of knowing. This is the biggest stage, Noah, almost Bryce Underwood, any of these guys have ever played in, right? Just like we don't know how Ohio State will handle us punching them in the mouth because there's nobody on that roster that's beaten Michigan in a game, okay? To me, those two intangibles, one on each side, I think will go a long way to determining this game regardless of what the score is. What are your thoughts?
I mean, like you said, the mistakes are going to happen. It's really about limiting them. I don't really see us making those mistakes, like jumping off sides, stupid penalties, stuff like that all year. And then all of a sudden this one week, all of those are gone.
Right.
I don't think, if that change hasn't happened yet, I don't think it's going to magically happen in the next week. But I mean, even one or two of those, like the smallest of things in a game like this can decide it at the end. So it's really, really just about limiting those as much as possible and staying disciplined throughout the game. And if you whiff tackles, you play like you did against USC. Even if there's one play where you whiff a tackle like you did against USC, you tackle like a third grader, that's going to lose you the game, most likely. You can't do that. So you have to play disciplined, play your brand of football, run the ball successfully, keep Julian sane in the pocket, and don't let them air the ball. Don't give them the time of day to do that. Because as good as our secondary is, which is okay, but it's very, very young. So I don't know how much I trust it. Don't even give them the chance to do that. But I mean, there's going to be a big player or two, I guarantee you, because a guy like Jair Hill is just going to get completely burnt out of the blue. And then maybe the next play he gets an interception. You don't know with a guy like that. He's inconsistently really good or inconsistently really bad. You never really know. So I think it's going to be decided by like one or two plays, and that's going to be it. I think it's going to be a close one, and it's really going to be about who plays more physical, runs the ball better, and makes the least mistakes. I think whatever team does that next week is going to win.
So a Michigan-Ohio State game, basically, for the last 100 years.
100%.
All right, good stuff, Noah. All right, we'll see you guys later on the channel this week. Go Blue.